So I think a lot of guys recently have started to ask the question, why does dating feel so difficult? Especially in like recent years, these last few years. And I was sitting there at the gym a couple hours ago thinking about that, and that's why I wanted to make this video. What I've noticed as of recently especially is that guys have really started to fall into two groups, and they've either gone way too red pill or way too blue pill. What I've seen is that it seems like men have just kind of completely lost their way with dating and don't really know what they're doing anymore. And so I wanted to give some insight and I guess help provide some clarity to you guys that are probably asking the same question right now. So what I've noticed is that a lot of guys have spent years now listening to a ton of influencers online. And most of them have been red pill influencers, telling you that you got to lock in your looks, your money, and your status. And that as long as you do that, you'll have women and everything will be cool and fine. And then on the other side, you have a whole group of guys that aren't even aware of the red pill, or they've seen some videos on it and they just don't believe it at all, and they're like still super blue pill. So what made me kind of realize this was Valentine's Day. So I saw a lot of guys both online on YouTube and social media and whatever, and then guys that I personally know fall into kind of two groups. So on the one hand, you have the guys that are like super red pill, and over the years they've really leaned into that. And what I saw was that they were basically saying like you really shouldn't do anything for Valentine's Day at all. You shouldn't do any gifts, you shouldn't take her out to any kind of dinner, no flowers, no chocolate, nothing at all. And then on the other side, you have the guys that they go all out with it. They get like the massive bouquet of flowers that's this big, and they have the rose petals leading up into their house, and they take their girlfriend out to like the most expensive dinner they can go to in town. And what I'm realizing is that both of those things will eventually get you left. And here's why. So the guys that have leaned like super hard into the red pill, and they say that you shouldn't do anything at all, nothing for special occasions, you shouldn't do anything for Valentine's Day, you shouldn't do any gifts or anything like that. The problem with that is it comes off as super robotic and uncalibrated. When you do that, your girlfriend is gonna look at you and be like, what the hell? Like it looks weird. It doesn't look right to not do anything for special occasions. Then you have the other side of it, the guys that are super blue pill, and when you go completely all out with stuff, and you have your rose petals leading into the house, and you have your big bouquet of flowers, what that does is it makes you look weak, and it makes you look like you're trying to prove something. So those guys get left because they look weak then. And they look like they have to shower their girlfriend in order to keep her around. It makes it look like he's trying to make up for some kind of defect with him. He's trying to compensate for some kind of defect, as though he's not good enough. And a lot of guys that fall into the blue pill, they don't see it like that. They think that it's just the right thing to do because society has basically told us that we should shower our girlfriends with gifts or shower our wives with gifts, and that'll make her love you. But what you'll see is that in theory it sounds really good, but in practice it just never works out like that. So what I've kind of seen is that I think the reason a lot of guys are lacking so much clarity right now with what to do in their dating life is because they have been fed just so many different things from so many different influencers that it's just left them super confused. It's been like information overload to the point where they don't even know what to do anymore. But the truth is, and this is what the red pill guys get really wrong, is that you need both traits. You need to have the looks, the money, and the status. You need to have some of those hard skills that actually proves that you can be a good provisioner, and that you can have an abundant social life, and that you've actually made something of yourself. But you also need some of those soft skills as a person that I guess would fall a little bit more into like the blue pill side of things, of, you know, being able to have some flirtatiousness to you, being able to be a little bit charismatic and bubbly at times. The problem is that a lot of guys don't understand how nuanced dating is, and how everything that you do impacts how the girl you're talking to feels about you. And so they end up falling into one side or the other, and they just kind of go way too overboard, to the point where they either look super weak or they look super robotic, depending on which side they fall on. And I think the reason a lot of guys do that is because it's the easy way. The easy way is to just go all in one way or the other, instead of realizing that dating is super nuanced and you have to find a good middle ground to actually keep women around. So the other thing that I've kind of seen, well, actually, just to kind of wrap that point up, the reason that you need both of them is because hypergamy needs a combo of both alpha seed and beta need. And if you don't have both of those things, eventually the girl is going to write you off as a bad long-term fit. You know, on the red pill side of things, like that guy, that can give off really good vibes to a girl, in terms of this guy would be a really good protector, and he'd be somebody who'd be really good to have kids with. But for the guys that lean too far into that, they come off as boring, which makes the girl not see him as a good long-term fit. Eventually she's going to stray because of that, because he doesn't do anything except for work and, you know, go to the gym and make himself look better. On the blue pill side of things, you can really spike a girl's emotions short term through like Riz and through showering her with gifts, and through demonstrating provisioning and stuff like that. But overall, again, in terms of long-term competency, she's not going to view you as somebody that she wants to be with, which gets you left again. Now, here's one of the biggest things that I have personally seen, though, with men, and the reason why I think they're actually struggling so bad right now. I think guys, along with information overload from hearing so many different things over the last few years with media, I think the other thing too is that men are really struggling with taking accountability. So what I've seen from a lot of guys, especially the guys that, well, actually it's guys on both sides, both the blue pill and the red pill, they really struggle with accepting the fact that there are character flaws within themselves, and they end up blaming it on the girl. So what I've seen a lot is, like, you'll have a guy who he's dated, you know, a few different girls long term, and maybe he's been married a couple of different times, but there's always an excuse for why things didn't work out with that girl. You know, she either had a drinking problem, or she was a narcissist, or she ended up being bipolar, or she ended up being a completely different girl than when I first met her, and so things just didn't work out because of that. But the truth is, and then on the other side of the coin, you have the red pill guys who just say that there's not any good women, period, and they're just all the same, and the relationships didn't work out because women just suck. The truth is, both sides of these guys struggle with nuance, and they struggle with taking accountability for their own character flaws. So you know, like I was saying, you have the guys that say she was bipolar, had a drinking problem, whatever, and the other guys say that women just suck, period. But the truth is, all this means is that these guys either suck at screening women, you know, especially the guys that have been married 2 or 3 different times. Like, you either really suck at screening women and actually seeing good character traits in women, which means you have your own personality and character defect of being able to actually pick out good women in the first place. Or, and I would argue this one's even worse, you have the guys that they see all of the red flags and all of the reasons that they shouldn't be with a girl, and they still choose to be with her anyway. And then after things don't work out, now it's just a bunch of excuses as to why it didn't. So overall, I would say that what men need to do is start finding a good blend of some of those red pill and blue pill traits and actually mashing them together a little bit so they can find something of a middle ground. And it kind of depends on what you want. Like, if you want a relationship, you're gonna have to do that. You need some of those soft traits and some of those hard traits in order to keep a girl around. But the thing is, if you can find a good mesh of those two things and pick a decent girl, that girl will never leave you, because you'll fulfill every single part of hypergamy that needs to be fulfilled in order for her to actually want to be with you forever and never stray from you. So guys, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe on it. It really helps me out. But also, if you want to actually go way more in depth with understanding this, take a look at the link in my description. If you want to learn, understand, and master the language of women. The things that I have seen in Casey's community, I've just barely scraped the surface with this video of actually understanding female psychology. And Casey, and I say psychology on purpose, I have not seen somebody explain the ins and outs of a woman's brain on such a deep level more than my brother. He does it better than anybody else, and the results speak for themselves of the guys who have gotten results inside of Headman Nation, inside of Casey's community. So if you want to learn, understand, and master the language of women so you can start having a far better dating life, check out the link specifically in my description, not one of Casey's. Check out mine, because then you're supporting me directly by clicking my affiliate link. So check it out, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.